And we're live. Welcome to Activate Thursday. My name is Jesse Allen. I'm the Senior Vice President of Product Marketing here at LifeVantage. Joining me tonight, we actually have two guests. Dr. Christina Beers, our Director of Research and Development, and I'm pointing as if you can see where I'm pointing, but also joining us is Lisa Barnes, who is our Vice President of Research and Development here at LifeVantage. I'm excited to have both of them here tonight, but I'm excited to have all of you that are with us tonight here on this webinar. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and out of your day to join us and to learn more about our products, and tonight to learn more specifically about one of our favorite products, Axio. We recognize that you're busy, that some of you are new to LifeVantage, some of you are very seasoned and have been here and been with us for a long time. We appreciate you and for wherever you're coming from. This webinar is obviously, as you know, is broadcast here on the LifeVantage Facebook page. And the reason we do that is you have the ability right now to share this video and this broadcast with anyone, any of your followers. You can share it right from this location. So we encourage you to tag your friends, tag your prospects, invite people to come join us. If you have comments or questions, we invite you to be engaged and ask those questions. We'll do our best to respond, and we probably won't respond during the actual broadcast, but we will certainly go back and read through all the comments and answer any questions that you may have. There might be a bit of noise. There's a lot going on outside the office. As you can tell, Lisa and I are both in the office. I wasn't supposed to be, and Christina has already expressed her disappointment with me of being in the office, but Christina is working from home right now, and anyways, appreciate the both of you taking the time out of your day to do this. I recognize how much the audience and our distributors appreciate this information and what we're able to share with them. So appreciate both of you taking the time to do it tonight.
Absolutely. No problem.
One thing that we are working on here at LifeVantage, and specifically within the product team. When I say the product team, it's really comprised of two different departments. There's the marketing side, which I oversee, and then there's the research and development side, which Lisa oversees, and jointly we form a larger team that is the product team. And there are other departments that certainly help with product development, product management, our regulatory team, the operations team, our quality team. They're all heavily involved, but these two teams specifically, product marketing and R&D, we are locked at the hip, and we're literally together all day, every day, whether we want it or not. We're together.
I was going to say maybe it's too much, but I was going to say silent. You spoke first.
You are too new to have that opinion. Yeah.
As I was just in your office for an hour, so it was my own fault.
Yeah, we spent some good time today. We spent some great time earlier this afternoon with our scientific advisory board, talking to them about the upcoming convention, as well as reviewing with them some of the products that we are working on for the future. Some of them are a year out, 2 years, and even 3 years down the road, but we appreciate that scientific advisory board and the help and the guidance that they give to us, both from a formula standpoint, from a market standpoint. Most of them are healthcare professionals and practitioners that are working with clients on a day-to-day basis, and they are, ground level on the street, if you will, of how our products are affecting and impacting the lives of the consumer. And so their feedback is invaluable, and we spent a good 75 minutes with them this afternoon. That's enough of that. What we're here for tonight is to talk about Axio. One thing that I wanted to mention, and I want to give kudos to Christina. She's been spending a lot of time looking at the overarching product line, our entire portfolio. A common phrase that we talk about a lot. It's really our value proposition, who we are at LifeVantage and what we're all about, and that is this concept of activation, helping the body optimize its natural processes so that you feel better, that you perform better, you look better, that you are able to do those things, and your body is able to perform the way it is meant to perform. It's such a miraculous thing. And our approach at LifeVantage is to provide the right nutrients in the right amounts in those products that optimize those processes in your bodies, or in your body. You don't have multiple bodies, in your body. What Christina has been doing, Christina and Lisa didn't formulate every product that is in the product line. Some of those products that currently live in the product line predate even them. So Christina has been going back into our existing portfolio, looking at the literature, the scientific studies, and identifying really what is the activation story for every single product. And it's been eye-opening, and it's been exciting for us internally to understand even better how impactful and how important these products really, really are. And you've been able to speak to it from your own experience using the product. And now Christina is unveiling some of the scientific literature that supports what it is that you've been feeling and experiencing with the product. And so it's very, very exciting. And it also allows us to talk about the products a little bit better and a little bit more intelligently. So tonight, we're going to talk about Axio. Axio is our nootropic. We talk about it as smart energy. It's one of our flagship or hero products, if you will, or you might call it a cult favorite and a cult following. It's a product that we love and does really, really well, both from the benefits that provides, but also from a business standpoint as well. So maybe I think where we're gonna take this is we're gonna talk a little bit about just the benefits that are provided from Axio, and then we're gonna shift the conversation and talk a little bit about how that's actually happening. What is, if I can use words from Christina's report, the method of action? What is it that those ingredients are actually doing to provide those benefits? Some of this, for those of you that are seasoned and been with us for a while, this is going to feel very familiar, but I'm confident that by the time we are done, you will have learned something that you were not aware of, or you will have a deeper insight into this product and how it's working. So that's my commitment to you. No pressure, Christina, but don't let us down. But that's our commitment, and I think it's going to be time well spent. So let's jump into it though. And this is conversational. So Christina is the one that's been doing the research. She's probably going to do the majority of the speaking. Lisa, wherever you want to jump in and help out, you jump in. But let's make this conversational and as you know, as beneficial for those that are joining us tonight as possible. But talk to us a little bit about Christina, just those benefits that are provided through the product, through Axio. What are the benefits? If someone's new that's watching tonight and they really don't know what this product is about, what would they experience, or what should they anticipate if they're going to start using and taking Axio?
Yeah, sure. So Axio is actually one of my favorites to take when I need a little picker-upper in the afternoon, say around 2 or so, and then just keep going till the end of the day and just stay focused and just get all the tasks done that we're actually doing during the day. I've also noticed that it reduces mental fatigue and your brain fog, and so you're clearer. Your endurance and mental acuity, concentration and memory is there. You know, it increases your physical and mental energy while also improving your mood. You have a positive mood. You feel better, basically. You know, we do know that it supports neurotransmitters from the research that we've done. We know it supports neurotransmitters in the brain, and it also is resilient towards stress. So, you know, it can wake up your brain. It doesn't have the caffeine jitters with it, or you don't get the caffeine crash with it either. So it's an overall great pick-me-upper, you know, for the afternoon. it contains all the good ingredients in there. So you know that this will help me get through the day.
So let me ask you a question, because it's easy to just somewhat dismiss all the benefits of Axio and just say it's an energy drink, but it's so much more than that. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because this is not just an energy drink.
Right. So we all know what caffeine does to you, correct? It gives you that energy that you need. It gives you that pick me up. I'm alert, I'm focused. But then later on, it's, you kind of come down from that high, and we call it the crash, and you just feel more fatigued, and you feel, oh, I shouldn't have done this. Why am I so tired? And things like that. We know the benefits of caffeine. We know that it influences your energy level and things like that, but we don't have that much in there. So we have a lot of other ingredients in there that are synergistic, that work synergistically with caffeine. We have theanine, for example. And theanine is an ingredient that we can find in different types of green teas. It directly affects or activates your resting state of your brain. It activates your alpha waves. And we've heard a lot about, or for example, if we do an EEG, which is an electroencephalogram of your brain waves, there are like 4 or 5. They've discovered even more brain waves now. And one of them is called alpha wave. And this alpha wave decreases when you're drowsy or sleepy. So theanine actually increases your alpha waves. So it keeps you more alert, but you don't have the jitters that you do with caffeine, because it affects a way, and I'm not quite sure how it affects the waves. I'm not sure exactly mechanistically how it goes into the cell and actually turns them on and off. That is something that I have not been able to find out in the literature 100%. We just know from EEGs how it affects your brain waves. And it shows that it increases your alpha waves, and that's your awake wave, so to speak. So, it keeps you awake.
Yeah. So the alpha wave, if I will, right, we're talking about the electrical waves within the brain itself, right?
Yeah,
right.
And there's alpha and delta and theta and beta. But if I understand correctly, alpha, when we talk about the alpha wave, that's typically associated with like that zone state. Am I right? Like when you
Correct.
are in the zone and you are focused and you are able to perform and really like just get things done, right? When that time when you are just going and nothing, and all of a sudden you look up and 4 hours have passed and you've been ultra creative and done everything that you needed to do and just felt in the zone. That's when your brain is functioning in the alpha wave, correct? Correct.
It's almost like you're alert, but you're relaxed at the same time, so it's not, you don't feel that alertness like with caffeine. It's just, it makes you stay focused. You're in the zone. It's almost like you have the blinders on and you're focused on the work that you're doing. And then, like you say, 4 hours later, oh, wow, 4 hours later, I got all this stuff done.
Yeah, that focused energy, that controlled energy that you can harness to accomplish your tasks versus a jittery energy that's all over the place. It's controlled.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that theanine, one of the key materials in the formula, it activates alpha wave.
Correct.
Would we say that? What's the correct way to say that? That it activates the alpha wave, it activates alpha wave production. How would you say that correctly?
I would say it activates the resting state of your brain activity. It activates those. You're resting. So your resting brain doesn't go down. It just stays there and it stays alert without going up or down. So it is balanced.
So it increases the level of alpha waves.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Activates more of that frequency.
Sorry, say that again.
Activates more of that frequency.
More of that frequency, which is interesting because anyways, not that I want to talk about myself, but I do a lot of meditation and have studied with a number of people about meditation. And one of the things about meditation is that part of the reason, or some of the benefit of that, is to activate that wave, right? And there's strategies to do it with sound and with light, and I sat through a study a while back that was all about classical music and how that stimulates alpha wave, or increases alpha waves, level of alpha waves. But what we're saying now is that this material, L-theanine, does something very, very similar. Christina, you mentioned a minute ago, and I think this is related to a different ingredient that's in the formula, or maybe it's not. But you said something about supports the brain's resilience to stress. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you mean when you say the brain's resilience to stress?
Well, we know that when with more cortisol production, we experience more stress. So, and stress is more, a little bit like jitters, like where do I go? I'm not in a resting state, right? I'm not in a calm, balanced, resting state. So it it works on that balance inside of you, so that you don't have, you don't look, you don't get distracted when somebody comes by, but you're more resilient in counteracting those things. It's hard to describe because stress is different for everybody. Stress to me is, I have all this stuff to do. How do I get to it? How do I focus? How do I prioritize? Whereas stress can be different for other people. Stress, for me, is I just got to prioritize. I can calm down. My resting heart rate goes down and things like that. For others, stress is a mental fatigue. It makes you tired just thinking about things. And that's a different type of stress in my book. So I think it balances that whole thing to where you can actually function and get focused and stay within the task and do what you need to do.
Got it. That helps. Okay, let's shift to a couple there's a couple different key materials or ingredients that are in the formula, and I kind of want to touch on the majority of them if we can. You had mentioned earlier caffeine, and caffeine is in the one version of our formula. We have both a caffeinated and a decaf or non-caffeinated version of Axio. Caffeine, in the world, there's pros and cons, people that love it and people that don't love it. But it is a real beneficial material in and of itself, right? It's not all negative. A lot of times it's associated with jitteriness, and so some people want to not necessarily love it, but there are some really great benefits to caffeine as well. Can you just speak to the positive side of that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. So we always associate high amounts of caffeine with negative side effects, with jitters, and with you just feel nervous and all that stuff. We have about 100 milligrams in our caffeinated version. And so if we look at mechanism of action and what caffeine really does, we got to take a step back and see what happens between the nerve cells, because caffeine accelerates certain things and decreases other things between the nerve cells. So during the day, we have something called adenosine accumulate in the spaces between nerve cells. And when they bind to these adenosine receptors, you become tired. So during the day, adenosine accumulates between the nerves, it binds to the ends of the nerves, and no signaling can occur, so you become tired, right? When you consume caffeine, up to a small amount of caffeine, it blocks these receptors without activating them. In other words, without making you drowsy. So you can still work, and it basically prevents this drowsiness during the day, because adenosine does not bind to these receptors, right? So it blocks the binding of adenosine to its receptors, but it doesn't cause the effect of the binding that adenosine does to these receptors. So you don't see the drowsiness. That's where you get the alertness and maybe even some of the focus on there for your brain to work. So you don't become tired or fatigued and things like that. But then there's also another mechanism, whereas caffeine works more on your whole body system. And that is, there is another, caffeine inhibits an enzyme that allows a chemical messenger to accumulate. And this messenger is called cyclic AMP. And when cyclic AMP is accumulating, it activates another enzyme, and it's called protein kinase A. And this protein kinase A does a whole bunch of things throughout the body. It increases your heart rate. It breaks down carbohydrates and fat into energy. It maintains actually your memory. It's part of your memory function. And it also causes your heart muscles to relax a little bit. So for your, so that your heart can pump more. So it has two, so it works in two ways, in a way. That makes sense to you.
Yeah. No, it does. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't fully understand in all of that, words that I can't even repeat to you that you just said. But at the end of the day, so it's preventing the binding of the adenosine to the receptor, which keeps you alert, right? And I think it's important. Adenosine is not a bad thing. It's your body's natural process of, once you wake up, preparing you for sleep, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's preventing that binding so that it keeps you awake, and then it's stimulating both the central and peripheral nervous system, and stimulating it so that you are alert and attentive, and as you mentioned, it helps with memory and cognition. But also interesting, as you talk about, right, with blood pressure, relaxing the heart muscle, some of those things. And I think that's why it's often associated with like sports or athletic performance, just because it prepares the body for that ability. Let's shift into a couple of other materials, because what I think is, hopefully by the time we're done, for those that are watching, right, we've talked about L-theanine, talked about caffeine. Each of these materials on its own is important, but what's really important is to understand, when they're all combined, just the synergistic nature of all of them. So I do want to touch on a couple of others and why it's so important that we have all of them in there. DMAE. DMAE is an interesting one, because that's actually a material that is really quite old, and used to be, if I understand correctly, if I know the history of it, used to be a prescription based, but is now available for dietary supplements. Maybe a little bit on the history of DMAE and what its method of action is.
Yeah, so DMAE, the molecule itself is called dimethylaminoethanol. And it's been around for a long time. They did a lot of research on it in the 70s in, let me say this, FDA compliant in for attention and focus in children. And then it kind of fell off the bandwagon, but you can still find it everywhere in a lot of products that have to do with cognition. And the reason is that it's actually a precursor to choline, which is, and then it becomes an indirect precursor to acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is actually the chemical messenger between your nerve cells. So if you don't have acetylcholine and this neurotransmitter, which is a fancier word than a chemical messenger, then you don't have, so the nerves don't talk to each other. And if you don't have that, you don't have any nerve activity, basically, right? So acetylcholine actually works in several choline, they call them acetylcholine dependent areas. They call them fancily cholinergic areas in the brain. And each of those areas have their own function. And some are involved in attention. Some are involved in motivation. in the brain, and some areas are involved in memory, right? So obviously you can't go in and take a brain slice out of humans and test it. But they do see the link is there that if your cholinergic function, the area where all these things are happening, are declining, or you have a reduction in that activity, your cognitive function declines as well. So you want to definitely, and the exact mechanism is still not 100% understood. But as you activate these areas, your cognition function increases, and you see all the other benefits with that.
And that's because DME is the precursor to choline, the indirect precursor to acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is that neurotransmitter or that chemical messenger that allows the nerves to talk, which then impacts attention, memory, and, which is interesting, motivation.
Motivation, yes.
What do we do? What do you mean when you say motivation? Because I know what the word motivation means to me.
Get things done, and I think it still works with you're in the zone and you actually have this thing of getting going and finished your task and stay in the zone and do it instead of your brain wandering off to other things and wanting to get out of there and maybe play with your dog or something like that. So,
okay. So that individual that's just constantly pushing things off. Right, take a little Axio, get that
exactly
liquid motivation.
Yeah.
Okay, fascinating. Really interesting material. The last one that I wanted to just ask you about, or have you ask if you'd speak to a little bit, is pine bark. Like what it is and why that one's important, why it's in the formula.
Yeah. So we take so this pine bark. Geez, I forget what the Latin name is. It is. Maybe Lisa, you remember it? I don't remember what the Latin name for this pine bark is. I think it's Pinus something. But this bark has shown to contain a large class of something called proanthocyanidins, and it's a mouthful to say for sure. And these chemicals are very abundant in plants, but you can also call them condensed tannins, and they're specifically found in darker plant material. So it has been shown that they actually have NRF2 activity, but they also have high antioxidant activity. So we know that the mechanism of action is that they somehow enter the cells and they kind of clean up all the debris in the nerve cells so that inside the cells, it becomes unclogged, right? So you still have signaling inside the cell to the nucleus and to the cell wall, and then the signals go outside the cell wall, and then they go and talk to other cells. So this becomes more efficient. And it's been shown that once you kind of declog the cell, your spatial memory improves for some reason.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. So, I mean, first, the whole concept that there's actually litter or debris inside a cell, that in and of itself is a bit like confusing, I think, for some people, because I just don't think we typically think that way. But what we're saying is that junk accumulates in the cell, and I assume that that's just based on normal cellular activity and cellular behavior, and just junk accumulates.
Yeah, think about it like a factory, right? So you have a factory, which is your cell. So the whole building of the factory is your cell. Yeah. And inside this factory, you have different rooms and different departments, and those are your different small cellular things inside a cell. It could be your DNA, it could be your mitochondria, it could be other organelles in there that are important for a cell to survive. And over time, if you don't clean up the factory, you're going to accumulate dust, you're going to accumulate spills, you're going to accumulate footprints, all kinds of things that that just accumulate over time. You know, if you don't clean your house, you're going to accumulate a whole bunch of stuff that you don't really want in there. So that's really what this is doing, and it's decluttering your plant or your house so that you can walk around better and communicate with somebody in the other room better and things like that. So open the door and go outside.
So the pine bark helps to clean up or declutter the neuronal cell or that cell, which I think has a direct correlation with DMAE. If DME is facilitating the actual communication between the nerve cells, the pine bark is cleaning up the cell itself so that it is working optimally. Yeah, prime. That's a perfect. I'm glad you're here. That's the way to say it.
I gotta type in every once in a while.
Yeah. You said something a minute ago. You used the word spatial memory, right? Studies have shown that pine bark has been shown to improve spatial memory. What does that mean? What is spatial memory?
Well, it's kind of, you remember where you are in a room. Say you close your eyes and you kind of know where you are, and you know where your body is compared to a table, or just basically a 3D memory.
Yeah. I think in athletics we talk about that as proprioception or spatial awareness, right?
Yeah.
Body awareness and the ability to move and control yourself in space.
Correct.
So a collection of multiple materials, and there are others in the formula that we haven't talked about. There's green tea and the polyphenols with that we haven't really talked about. There's the B vitamins and magnesium, but it feels like, well, they're all important, but what we've really centered on is caffeine, which has, right, that's both the stimulant, but also it decreasing blood pressure, relaxing the heart muscle, helping with athletic performance, DMAE, and helping with cell or nerve signals, nerve communication. Theanine, which is really actually incredible and an important material, and that whole alpha wave in the zone concept, and then pine bark, and decluttering, if you will, the neuronal cell. On their own, all really important ingredients, but collectively combined together, really have a significant impact on memory function, on motor function, motor function is probably not the right way to say it, but memory function, brain function, thought process. It's no wonder this is such a popular product. Lisa, you're the newest one here. You speak to it a little bit, because you've got. Sometimes we speak to things that we're very familiar with and passionate about because of our own experience. But you're new here. As you hear this, and as you've reviewed the research with Christina, what have your thoughts been around this product and this formula?
Yeah, no, definitely. One of the things that's impressed me about the formula is the multi-path approach to approaching energy. Because as a formulator, I always look to, okay, here's the problem, here's what I want to solve. So this one I want to solve being able to focus, that energy, like not crashing. And I want to see how many different ways can I get there? How many different pathways kind of lead to that result so that I can get the most optimized result? And so it's so exciting to see that this product affects so many different areas: the decluttering, the communication, just providing that the blocking of the alanine bindings so that you kind of don't get that drowsiness. We're approaching it from so many different mechanisms, and you can see why there is the efficacy. So that's exciting to me. It's also exciting to me that it's just in a format that's so easy to consume, so that it's very handy as you're going throughout your day and you do need that actual benefit, that you can easily consume it and get that quick kind of burst without the crash. Because I've experienced so many products where you get that crash and you're feeling so good for a while, and then it's just like you hit that 3 o'clock and you're just done, and it's your day is just done. And so that gentle kind of coming down from the energy without the crash is important to me, to be able to just function in my daily life, my job, my family. So that combined with our multi-mechanism approach is what impresses me about this product.
Yeah. You brought up a couple of things that I just want to maybe just point out a little bit. One, and I've kind of neglected all of this during the conversation, but the fact that it just tastes so good, right? We're talking about it from a functional standpoint and all the benefits that it provides. But it's so delightful and easy to consume and in multiple flavors and which obviously, that speaks to the fact that we have we released or re-released 2 new flavors, or actually earlier this week with spice plum and peppermint stick that are available right now. I've got another question for both of you, but before I get there, Christina, you've been doing all of this research and you've been diving into the literature. What 1 or 2 things stood out to you? And maybe this isn't a fair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What are 1 or 2 things that stood out to you in the literature that maybe wasn't top of mind that you were thinking about with this product until you started doing this research?
It was actually the pine bark, that it declutters the nerve cells.
Yeah.
That was new to me. I still want to know how it does it. That's what I burn for, is I need to know how it works.
So we'll figure it out shortly. We'll be on your theory again.
I know what the results are, but I want to know how to get to the results.
Oh,
so
good.
That's something that I'm still going to investigate and still dig into in between other projects. But that's something that surprised me, actually. I've known about the combination of theanine and caffeine and how they kind of counteract the crashing effect of caffeine, but you still have the alertness without the jitters, so to speak. I've known about that, but it's actually fascinating to me. All this stuff, digging into all this literature is fascinating.
Yeah.
Say that again, Lisa.
I said, you don't really hear about that decluttering of the cells and the connection with the pine bark. I've not seen it anywhere else. So it's a new kind of angle for me approaching this kind of product, which is always exciting from a product development point of view. Sometimes you always see the tried and true, which there's nothing wrong with tried and true. Sure. It's always fun when you see something that's approaching it from a different way and you're like, okay, now I see why this is working better. So then we want to dig in and understand all the details. And so
and what it says to me is just how intelligent the formula itself is, that it is, to use your words, approaching this from multiple different pathways, approaching the same overall benefit of memory and cognition and energy, but doing it through multiple pathways, and pathways that feel like work hand in hand or work in tandem.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, pathways that don't counteract each other.
Yeah.
But they all work towards the same goal.
Yeah.
Well, that's the difference between just throwing a bunch of different ingredients in that seem like they would have great benefits and actually making sure those benefits are complementary.
Yeah.
And that's intelligent formulation.
Yeah.
That too.
Intelligent formulation. Okay. So with that, the next question is, what is your approach to how you actually use this product on a daily basis? And this is I know, like, we don't prescribe how to use the product. I'm asking how you specifically use the product, because I have my strategy and I'll share that. But Christina, what's your approach?
I usually take it after lunch.
Okay.
I usually take it after lunch because I may or may not experience that carbohydrate, tiredness, your digestion tiredness. So I usually take it about an hour after lunch, around 1 or 2, and then I just, I love the red raspberry, actually. So I mostly take the red raspberry, and it gives me another couple of hours to go. Okay,
perfect. So red raspberry after lunch. Lisa, have you created a system yet for yourself? You're still.
So I'm also in the afternoon. I'm a little bit later, and the reason for that is that I transitioned from my work life to then my home life, and I have to be just as on point to be a dance mom and a wife and all the other things when I get home. So I can't afford that kind of down dip in energy. So I got to keep going for the rest of the day. So that 3 o'clock time is where I can start feeling that creep down, and that kind of keeps me going through the rest of my evening. So late afternoon.
Okay, so Christina Red Raspberry, that's her jam. That's one of the decaffeinated flavors.
Right.
If you're doing 3 p.m., is that a caffeinated version or a non-caffeinated version?
Oh, I'm doing caffeine.
Fully leaded. Got it.
Fully leaded. And I've been trying all the flavors. I'm still determining what my favorite is. I'm working my way through everything.
Do you have a favorite yet?
Not yet. They're all so far they've been good. There's been none that I've disliked. So that's always a good thing. So once I try all of them, I'll let you know what my favorite is.
Okay. Well, I want the people that are watching, those are you that are viewing from home. I want to know what your favorite flavor is. I don't know why. I love sour cherry. I like them all, but for some reason I love sour cherry. My strategy, my approach, I am clockwork 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I guarantee if you come into my office at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m., I am drinking an Axio.
I
And
can attest to that. He's been in meetings in my office at 10 a.m. and he's mixing his Axio as we're talking. So that's it's on the clock.
Habit.
And I'm like Lisa, it's always the caffeinated version. I like the decaf, but I also like the caffeinated version. So okay, Christina, this has been wonderful. Thank you for taking the time to actually do this research and to dive into this, but then taking the time to actually explain and share this with all of us. And Lisa, thank you for helping out. I appreciate both of you being here. I have a sneaky suspicion that there's going to be a request for more of this with some of our other products. So this has been really, really enlightful. For those of you that are watching and have been, hopefully you've been participating and adding comments. As I mentioned, we'll jump into the chat afterwards and answer as many questions as we can. We appreciate you taking the time and appreciate you spending the last 30 minutes with us. We're going to wrap this up. I am going to remind you a couple of things. We do this Activate Thursday every 2 weeks. So the next Activate Thursday is October 20th, which is obviously a Thursday, but that is the first day of registration, on-site registration for conventions. So if you are going to be in the Phoenix area, we're excited and look forward to seeing you there. If you're not and still on the fence trying to decide whether you're coming to convention, just make the decision and get there. We've got a great event planned out for you. And we'd love to see all of you there. So make sure you're coming to convention. If you're not, you can still tune in. We're going to do it right here in this exact same place on the Facebook page, 7 p.m. Mountain Time in 2 weeks. And we will be talking at that time about a product that will be featured the following day at convention. So it's one that you will absolutely want to attend and don't want to miss. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you again for joining us. Christina, one more time, thank you for your time. Lisa, thank you for your time. You guys are a wonderful duo. You're a wonderful team. I can speak on behalf of the distributors when I say thank you for all of your work, for your dedication. The products are the lifeblood of this company, and they do not exist without the two of you. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks for having us. And I'll do this again.
All right, perfect.
It's the highest praise. She'll come back.
All right. Have a good night, you two. And everybody out there, have a good night, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.